Hey there friends, I'm back with another slow flow class for you today. You don't necessarily have to have props for this particular sequence. However, if your arms are on the shorter side, you might like to have a couple of blocks to put your hands on, which will, in a way make your arms longer and just kind of give you a little bit more space to work with for one thing. So just keep that in mind. Of course, blocks come in handy in all sorts of other ways, so you might just have them handy regardless. And we're gonna start lying down with feet on the mat, knees bent. And as I like to start a lot of classes, we're gonna do some pelvic tilting. So we're moving the pelvis forward and back. And when we go forward, there's space underneath the lower back between that and the mat. And then as we move in the opposite direction, we're pressing that space away. So we're gluing our backs down. And we're going to keep the pelvic tilts as part of the mix here when we add another thing to this equation. A little bit of core work. So after pressing flat, keeping that position, we're going to take hands on the thighs, let the feet lift, and we're going to try to create a little bit more tension by pretending that somebody is pushing on our feet. So they're trying to push our legs in toward the chest, but our hands are not going to let that action happen. So a little bit of isometric force against each other here, hands against thighs, and then we'll add our head coming up to feel those abs kick in a little bit more. So once you got the hang of that, that's the place we'll come back to in between our rounds of pelvic tilts. So we'll let things lower down, and again, tilt the pelvis forward and back as a little movement break in between. Hands on the thighs, lift, squeeze, hold, a breath or two, just to the point where we feel the work. And then lower, pelvic tilt, lift, press. Let's do a few more. And if you've done any of my classes before, you know that I like to present different scenarios of some of the same types of actions throughout class. So drop a pin in this sort of isometric push here, because we'll revisit that a little bit. Let's do one more round. Ooh, my abs are burning. Oh, one last little treat of a pelvic tilt round. Okay, we're going to move on to some shoulder warm-ups from here. So let's bring our arms into a cactus or goalpost-like shape, 90 degrees-ish, doesn't have to be perfect. And let's make fists with our hands and give them a good squeeze so that you can feel a little bit of muscular activation, tension through your arms, right? Okay, so notice here that the backs of the arms, the upper arms, the shoulders are down. Okay, so we're going to try to keep that part of our arms down while we rotate the arms, right? So we're letting the forearms lift and the fists are going up. And then here's the hard part. We're gonna let the fists move down toward the floor. I'm not bending my wrists, I'm just rotating from the shoulders. And at some point, I get kind of stuck if I am keeping my shoulders glued to the floor, which is what I'm trying to do. And you can test that by bringing your hands, your fists all the way down and notice that, right, my shoulders have lifted. If I put my shoulders back down, the fists aren't down anymore, right? So that's what we're going for. And then we'll come back to the starting position and rotate a few more times. Again, goal is not touch the floor with your fists. Goal is keep the shoulders down. Keep tension through your arms. Keep the wrists neutral. And we'll revisit something similar again in a little while in a different location. That's how I roll. Let's try one more. Okay, after coming back down to that starting position, you can relax your arms more, still in somewhat of a cactus-like position, but a little bit floppier, more relaxed. And let's widen the feet here. Make sure your feet are not like super duper close in toward your bum, a little bit further forward. And let's start with some windshield wipers from side to side. And as we go to the left, we might notice a little bit more sensation in the right hip, and as we go to the right, a little bit more sensation in the left hip. Just noticing how things feel when we get into that position. We'll revisit this later too. Feel like a broken record today. We'll revisit this. Drop a pin in that. We're going to add a movement to this mix. We're going to keep with the windshield wipers. So as we windshield wiper to the right, keeping the legs where they are and keeping my right cactus arm where it is, I'm going to let my left side lift and roll over to the right. And I'm noticing just a little bit of a different sensation kind of on the top of my left side of that hip, a little bit in the waist area. And then I'll let my upper body come back down. And then I'll let the legs lift and windshield wiper to the left. And then I'll let the upper body roll over again, just pausing and noticing anything different that I'm feeling. All right, let's do a few more of those. Let the halves of the body move independently. So legs go first, and then upper body, and then upper body goes back, and then legs. Legs, upper body, legs. Let's do one more round. Windshield wiper to the right, roll to the right, roll back down, lift the legs, windshield wiper to the left, roll to the left, roll back, and lift the knees. All right, let's give those knees a hug and rock a little bit. And let's rock up, and we'll come on to all fours. We'll do some more kind of quote-unquote normal stuff to start here. Some cat-cow. Extending the spine and flexing. And I like to move my feet back and forth because that's just kind of the way that I learned it back in the day. You don't necessarily have to coordinate the foot movement, your feet can stay. It's more about the spinal movement. One last round. Okay, and then we'll just come to neutral-ish table, just kind of somewhere in the middle, and focus on our wrist a little bit from here. So we're going to alternate between two things. Keeping the fingers down, let the heels of your hands lift, and then take them down, and then try to keep the heels of the hands down while we lift the fingers, and that's a little harder, I think. All right, alternating between those two. One more round. Okay. Now we're gonna move to some shoulder movement, mobility, action. I'll start with the left side just because I think you'll see it better from that side. So I'm gonna start with kind of a circular movement, but in a kind of a diagonal. So I'm gonna let my left hand reach toward the right corner of the mat. There's the diagonal. And I'm gonna let that circle up diagonally. As I'm reaching up, my palm is facing out, hello. And then I'll reach back and down. And then as I reverse that and reach back toward that right corner of the mat, I'm gonna create tension through my arm, right, so it's not floppy. Let the pinky edge of the hand come down. Keep the arm active and bow down, opposite elbow bending, and I'm feeling some stuff kind of near the armpit. Come back up and do another circle. Reach it back, reach across, thumb is up, active arm bow down. Come up, let's do one more. Bow down, come up and back to table, and we'll switch to the right arm, right? Reaching across at a diagonal, circling up, letting the palm face out as it reaches back. And I forgot to say this on the first side, but let's see if we can not let the other body parts come with us while we move the one thing. Find your bow here, keep your arm active, lift back up, circle. Reach across, bow down, thumb is up, spread the fingers, active arm, one more time. Okay, back to table. I'm gonna keep my legs hip width as I sit back toward a child's pose, but we're not gonna stay, we're gonna move from this position, so don't get too attached. All right, so the hips are back, and I'm reaching my hands as far forward as they'll possibly go here, like somebody's kind of pulling on my hands. From here, we're gonna flow up through a rounded back into a knee plank position. Lower down, trying to control it, like a baby chaturanga, and then a baby cobra. Lower, press back up to knee plank, round your back toward that child's pose. And let's flow through that a few more times. Rounding up, right, finding more neutral in our knee plank, lowering down. Baby cobra, lower, knee plank, rounding back, rounding up and forward, lower down, baby cobra, lower, knee plank, child's, last time, and we'll end on our bellies from here, baby cobra, and then we'll stay down. All right, we're gonna come back to something we did on our backs here by making our cactus goalpost arm shape here as well. And your head can be all the way down, or maybe it's a little bit lifted. It doesn't necessarily matter so much, but we're gonna make those fists again, like we did lying down. So when we were on our backs, the shoulder was the area we were trying to keep down while we moved the arms. This time we're just trying to keep the elbows down, and we're trying to not bend the wrists, make fists, create tension, and then try to lift off. Elbows are down, and then lower. Let's try a few. And it may not look like much, but hopefully you're feeling that it is much for the shoulders, right? It's much, for sure. Couple more. Woo. All right. After coming back down, you can release the but keep the cactus arm position. And then left hand beside the chest, roll to your right side with that cactus arm. Take a moment. Roll down, left cactus arm, right hand beside the chest, roll to the left. Roll that down, and then let's press up to table again. And then from here, I'm gonna move into a toe tuck position. So it might take a moment to encourage all those toes to tuck under, especially the pinky toes. So we're gonna keep our hands down and we're kind of pushing, and then we're gonna move back and forth between this position, this toe tuck, and down dog, attempting as we go to keep as much the same as possible. Yeah? So I'm pushing, my hips are back. My torso and thighs are not super far apart, and I'm gonna see how much of that I can keep as I lift up and lower, back and forth. Arms are actively pushing the whole time. Feeling those legs now, yeah? Couple more. And this time we'll stay in down dog and adjust and wiggle. Hopefully it feels a little bit more restful after that work. And let's walk the feet up near the hands, hang in a nice forward fold here for a breath or two, maybe some movements. And let's come on up to standing. All right. Let's settle into mountain pose here. Feel those feet root down. Stand up nice and tall. Inhale the arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold back down. Inhale, lift halfway, chest forward. Exhale, fold, plant the hands and step back to plank. Right, so think back to our child's pose, knee plank, baby cobra stuff. So that's an option here as well. Or you can do the traditional chaturanga and up dog and then down dog. But again, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly one thing every single time. You get to choose. You have options. That's why we practiced our baby cobra knee plank stuff, so that we know that we have those options. All right, let's take it back up to the top of the mats. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to hips, and then sit back into your chair pose position. So your chair doesn't have to look like mine. None of your poses have to look like mine because our bodies are different. So you can bend your knees more or less than I am. Your weight might be further back or further forward, depending on your Achilles. All that stuff makes a difference. So we're gonna try to keep our chair pose base as we do some movement with the left leg. So we'll let the foot lift, and then we'll tap our toes, or just the big toe, whatever comes down forward, and then back up, out to the left, back up, toward the back of the mat, back up, and then behind us to the right. And that one's a little awkward. And back up. Let's try that a few more times. Get some hip work, really for both legs. Okay. And then we'll come up out of that standing leg, and that already, that feels better. And I've got my left knee kind of forward out in front. hand on top of the leg. Let's create that tension again that we did lying down with both legs and the hands pressing against the thighs. So press your leg into your hand into your leg, and then rotate the leg back and forth from the hip. Drop a pin in this rotation thing. We'll revisit that a little later. Okay, from here, let's bend that standing leg again and do our kind of step back like we were doing as part of that sequence. And we'll let that take us to a warrior one position. Let's do arms down to start. And if you have a tendency to feel wobbly in lunge type of situations, widen your feet a little bit. That'll be helpful. Okay, so arms are down. As we lift the arms up, we're gonna also try lifting our heels. So like a tiptoe warrior one, and then heels down, arms down. Let's try a few more. Balance is definitely a challenge. Last one. And then as we come down, we'll let the hands reach back for a clasp, and then fold it down to humble warrior. All right, come back up. You can release the hand clasp. Let's try, we'll keep the arms down this time, but we'll lift the heels, and we'll see if we can keep the front leg as is-ish. As we let the back leg turn open to a tiptoe goddess shape. Balance is definitely a challenge. Heels down, sit lower, because now we probably can, but then can we keep the depth of that squat as we lift the heels again? Legs are burning. Let's try to keep the heels up as we start to pivot back forward with the back foot. Heels down, arms up, warrior one. That was one side, hands to the mat. Step into plank, inhale. Again, you can do a full plank, a knee plank. You can chaturanga or go to your belly. You can baby cobra or up dog, and then down dog. Okay, let's take it back up to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to hips. Sit into your chair. Take a moment again to figure out how much you want to bend your knees, where your weight needs to be, so that your chair pose is as reasonable as it can be. Yeah? Okay. So we'll do that chair-based leg work with the right leg. Lift the foot, tap forward, up, out to the right, up, back, and then cross behind and up. Again, forward, out, back, behind and across. One more time. Forward, out, back, cross behind. Okay. Stand up. Left leg is thanking me. Create tension with the hand pushing down on the leg, but the leg pushing up on the hand. And then I'll rotate from the hip. Bend the standing leg. Let's start to send it back to help us find warrior one. Arms down. Take a moment, adjust your feet, maybe widen your base a little bit for balance help now that we know what's to come. And we'll attempt to lift the heels and the arms at the same time, and then take them down at the same time. Let's Do a few more. All right, after coming down this time, we'll find our hand clasp and fold it to humble warrior. Come on back up. Release the hand clasp. Let's try lifting the heels again. And then we'll attempt to keep the left leg where it is as we spin the right leg out. Tiptoe goddess position. Heels down, sit lower. Try to keep that lowness. Lift the heels back up. Feel the burn. Pivot back forward. Regular warrior one, heels down, arms up. Hands to the mat, step into plank, inhale. And we'll go to our bellies this time for something different. So just take a moment and rest and breathe and, whatever you need to do here. Take a moment. Okay, so take your hands out in front of you and stack one hand on top of the other hand, and the elbows are nice and wide. Yeah. Forehead rest on that top hand. We're gonna keep the upper body down, so this is just more of a resting position for the upper body. And we're gonna do some half locust work with just the lower body. So right now my legs are, hip width-ish, because that's just kind of how they were and landed. So we're gonna be doing some lifting and lowering and trying some different leg positions to see how that feels. So, rest your head down. Create some tension through your legs. Give your bum a little squeeze. Lift the legs up. Bring your legs all the way together with them still up. And then lower your legs down with them still together. With them still together, lift them back up and then spread them out wide like edges of the mat. And then lower them down with them wide. Lift them up wide. Bring them all the way together and lower down. So we're alternating between those two back and forth. Let's keep going. So as we move in order to really squeeze the legs all the way together, we might feel a little inner thigh work. And as we're going wider with the legs, we might feel some outer hip work, right? Last round. And then just kind of let them relax and wiggle some things. Maybe turn your head from side to side. All right. Downward facing dog. Let's step back up to the top of the mats. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to hips. Okay, so to me this is related in a way to what we did before, but different. But I still think you can kind of tie things together. So instead of tapping a foot in some different places, we're going to tap a hand in some different places while we're standing on one leg. Yeah, I know. Okay. So the left hand is going to be the tapper, and the left leg will be the lifted leg. So go ahead and just kind of shift your weight to the right and let your left foot lift a little bit. And it doesn't matter, this left leg can just kind of be and come along for the ride. So we're going to move toward a warrior three-leg position. So we're going to tilt downward and let the left hand tap the floor in front of us somewhere. Okay, and then we'll come back up. And if you need to take your foot down in between, because we're going to tap in different spots, that's okay. Maybe it can stay elevated. As we tilt down, I'm going to let my left hand reach toward the left this time. I'm gonna tap left corner of the mat-ish, and then come back up. And then as I go back down, I'm gonna let my left hand kind of tap over to the right. And back up. All right, because that's harder, we're only gonna do that one time, but we're gonna go back down and tap in front of us and stay. And you could have a block down there if that felt better since we're staying. And we'll add to this, making it a twist. Let your chest turn to the right, reach your right arm up, revolved half moon. Let's try to keep that twist and land in a lunge, ball with a back foot. Maybe that hand moves in a bit, and it could be on a block here too. From here, we're gonna alternate between this position and lowering the back knee. Let your left hand and your left foot try to lift at the same time as you come up and try to tap that left foot with your right hand. There it is. Lower back down, and let's lift that back knee again to give a little bit of length and hopefully relief to maybe the hamstrings, which had to work as we lifted the foot. So let's try that a few times. Back to my hand down, knee lifted position. Let's straighten that right leg. So it's more like revolved triangle. And then we'll take it into regular triangle by letting the back heel spin down and switching where we're facing and reaching up with the left arm. Extended side angle, bend the right knee, reach the left arm forward. Straighten the right leg. Let's lift up into, I don't know, I call it a straight-legged reverse warrior. You could call it a reverse triangle maybe, I don't know. And then warrior two, somewhere in the middle. All right, and then we're gonna go toward the back leg for Skandasana. All right, so we're being mindful about how far we're going. You can always put your hands down at any time. Take your time with it. For some of us, our heels will stay down. For some of us, they just won't. And it kind of is what it is in terms of your Achilles. Of course, you can work on those things, but you know, sometimes there's only so much you can do. So we're gonna be super careful as we attempt to sit. And this is my good side, so this is my easier side. My other side will be a different story. So once you have carefully made your way down, make sure your legs are still in that kind of Skandasana-like position. Go ahead and take your hands down behind you to help you feel like you're not gonna fall backwards, right? Because that might be how you feel. All right, we're gonna let this bent knee go down and come up a few times. And then we're going to see how that feels with us not having our hands behind us for help. So it's going to be harder. I'm going to reach my arms forward just so I know I'm not using my arms. But we're going to attempt to really just move one thing at a time. So let your knee go back down. And notice I haven't changed my torso position, or I'm trying not to. Try that on for size a few times. And then we'll add some other movements. So after coming down, we'll let the torso turn because it kind of wanted to. And then let's add a nice little reach and come back up. And then let your knee lift first and then let your torso turn. Yeah? Knee down, turn, reach, come back up. Knee up, turn. Knee down, turn, reach, up, knee up, and turn. Okay, so from here we're going to attempt to go back up to Skandasana, which is where we were before we sat. So it could be that this leg moved a little bit and it needs to come back in. It could be that you want to use your hands to help. If coming down felt pretty reasonable, you might be able to come back up within reason, but you know, it kind of is what it is in some regards in terms of that pose. And then let's take hands down and we'll treat ourselves with a rest in a wide-legged fold. Okay, from here, let's start to pivot toward the top of the mat. And here's where, if your arms are not crazy long, you might use your blocks. So, you can have hands down on your mat or hands on blocks. And you can also experiment with higher positioning of blocks as needed. So, what we're gonna try to do from here is that same rotation of this right leg that we did standing a little while ago. So, push into blocks or your mat with your hands, lift your right foot, and then see if you can kind of rotate the leg underneath you. Pretty hard. Okay, and then with the knee more to the right, bring that leg forward a touch more, scoot your left toes back, and you're pretty well set up for pigeon from there. So, we're going to try a few things in pigeon. So from here, just walk yourself up a little bit more. See what you feel. And then walk yourself forward like we normally do. Take a moment, see what you feel that's different from the upright. And then walk it back up. And then let's try walking it kind of over to the left. Pausing long enough to see what we feel. That's interesting. And come back up. Let's reach to the right because we can. See what we feel. And come back up. And then you can decide which of those up, forward, over to one side you want to kind of rest in for just a little bit. So, next position we're going to go to is Sphinx. And you can transition in a number of ways. You can press yourself up to plank and chaturanga down, etc. Or you can just kind of slide it on down, which that was my preference just then because we've been working pretty hard. So, just take a moment to get your Sphinx set up. Isn't that a great word, Sphinx? I love it. So, about elbows under shoulders. I think mine are usually just a smidge forward and palms are down, legs are back, things feel fairly comfy. And we're going to attempt a little bit of work here. Not crazy hard in my opinion, but interesting. So, make your Sphinx just a little bit more active, a little bit more lifted. And then from here, let's rotate the arms so the palms face up. And we're attempting to still keep our Sphinx lifted, and we're trying to press the thumbs down, and just notice how that feels different. From here, you can let your hands elevate just a little bit as we send the hands wider apart. Elbows are still down, and then back forward, and then palms down. And let's do that a few times. Rotate up, think thumbs down, and then hands widen, back, and down. Couple more. Drop a pin in this. We'll do it again. Next time around in a different base position. Finishing that round, scoot your elbows out, wiggle whatever needs a wiggle. Okay, downward facing dog. We got one more side. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to hips. Okay, so again, we're gonna do that sort of teeter-totter toward a kind of a warrior three-leg position, but taking the hand to some different places. The right leg will be the lifted leg, the right hand will be the tapping hand. We'll be standing on the left foot. So shift your weight to the left, let your right foot lift. As we tilt down, we'll let the right hand tap the floor or a block in front of us somewhere, and then come back up. And again, you can always set your foot down in between to rest. And then as we go down, let's take the right hand and tap it over to the right. And back up. As we go down this time, we'll tap over to the left. Ooh, it's tricky. And come back up. All right, we're gonna go forward again with the hand, and again, it might be on a block. And we'll stay, and we'll add a twist to the left. Turn your chest, left arm up, revolved, half moon, breathe. That's for me too. And then we'll keep the twist and land in a lunge, ball of the foot, hand might come in a bit. Alternating between this and knee down, try to let the foot and hand lift at the same time, so balance is a little challenge. Reach back, come back down, and lift the knee. Back and forth. One more time. Okay, from here, let's straighten that leg. So it's a little bit more like revolved triangle. And then we'll let the back heel spin down, and we'll switch which way we're facing for a regular triangle. My hips like to make noise getting into triangle. Yours may too. Side angle, bend the knee and reach forward. Straight-legged reverse warrior. Straighten, reach up, reach back. Warrior two. Back leg skandasana. Shift and sit into it. Again, you're being mindful, your hands could be down. Maybe your heel stays down, maybe it doesn't. And it's okay either way. And then we'll carefully attempt to sit. Okay, and then we'll check in and make sure our legs are still skandasana-like. Take your hands behind you, and we'll take the right knee and angle it down and up a few times, starting with the first thing. Okay, and then we'll do that same thing, but just let the arms reach forward as we take knee down and up. And it feels a little bit tricky to keep the torso in place. And then we'll add our extra movements, letting the torso follow the knee, and then do a little reach. Come back up, lift the knee, and then turn. Knee down, turn, reach, back up, knee lifts, turn. Knee down, turn, reach, back up, knee up, forward. Let's do one more. All right, and then again from here, we're gonna try to get back to our skandasana. Use your hands or see what happens. I'm just gonna use my hands because, again, this is not my more favorite side. And then we'll let ourselves come into a wide-legged fold to have a little rest. Breathe. toward the top of the mat. Again, we're gonna do our, I call it pigeon plank because it's kind of plank with a pigeon leg, and we'll do that rotation. So, the first time I use the blocks, I'll see how it goes this time without the blocks, but again, if your arms are not crazy long, it probably is gonna feel better with blocks, just to make some space. So we'll let the left foot lift, and we'll try to kind of rotate that leg underneath this. Multitasking out the wazoo. Okay, knee more out to the left. Bring it forward, scoot your right toes back. Get your pigeon set up. Take a moment, walk things upright more. Walk things forward and see how they feel. Take a moment. Walk it back up. Reach to the right. I think this was yummy. Come back up. Reach to the left. Also yummy. Come back up. And then you can decide where you want to stay and hang out. Maybe it's different than the first side. Maybe the forward position just kind of feels like a nice rest in between. That's what I'm doing. That works for me. Do what works for you. Breathe. So after this sequence on the first side, we did that sort of palm up, our movement thing in Sphinx. So again, I said we were going to revisit that, but in a different place this time around. So that different place is forearm plank. So again, there's all kinds of ways you can get there. Since I'm in a place where my forearms can kind of plant down, I'm just going to go ahead and step into it. And remember that you can put knees down in a plank and still have it be a plank, right? So keep that in mind. So take a moment to get your setup, right? Try to keep a nice straight line down your back as you rotate palms up and try to get your thumbs down. And then let your hands move further apart. Ooh, that's tricky. And then back in line, palms down. Try a couple more. I got one more, and that's it. Oh. Okay, let's lower back to Sphinx from there, and we'll do something different as a nice sort of treat after that. So, from Sphinx, lift your elbows up to kind of a seal, and then as we lower down, we're going to lower than we were, and let the elbows kind of go out as you lower down, and then press them back up. Yeah. Last one. Maybe take a moment in your seal and then lower down, rest, wiggle, breathe. Okay, from here, press yourself up, and we're going to come into a forearm table position. So from table, you can just kind of put your elbows down about where your hands were, right? And think neutral-ish spine, so we're not necessarily going to change what the spine is doing while we do one thing similar to what we just did in Sphinx and forearm plank. So from here, rotate your palms up. Try to get the thumbs to touch your mat. See how that feels. Don't dump in your shoulders. And then see your hips back. And you should feel a little bit more stretchiness. And then come back up, palms down. Let's do a few more. Rotate up, try to get the thumbs down. Sit back and come up. Palms down. Palms up, thumbs trying to touch. Sit back. Come up. Last one. And we'll pause in our kind of sitting back position. And you can keep your toes tucked, you can release your toes, doesn't really matter. But let's take it to more of a child's pose from here. And let's let the hands come to the backs of the shoulders. So it's a little bit more tricep focused. Breathe. Okay, release your arms, lift up. Let's come to seated from here. Okay, bring your feet forward with knees bent. So this next sort of setup is kind of like upward table, but we're gonna try a couple different things. Again, it kind of ties back to how different hand positions in different poses might make us feel some different things. So from here, I'm gonna reach my hands back behind me with fingers pointing toward the back of the mat. And that probably is a little bit easier for most of us in terms of how the shoulders are gonna feel. So from here, puff your chest up, broaden through the shoulders, push into your hands, lift your hips a smidge, and then let your hips move forward more towards your feet. Set them down for a moment, see what you feel in your shoulders. Lift your hips back up, and then move them back kind of where they were. All right, that was one variation. And then let's try the same thing, but with more traditional hand placement for upward table or upward plank, which is fingers turned in toward the top of the mat. Okay, before we do anything, let's puff the chest up and try to broaden through the shoulders, and that already might feel a little different, a little bit trickier. Lift the hips a smidge. Bring them a little more forward. See what you feel. Set them down. Pause. Lift them up. Bring them back. Set them down. Okay. Lift your feet. Lift your hands. Boat. How's that for a rest pose? It's not really, but at least it feels restful for the shoulders. Okay. From boats, I'm going to cross my right leg on top to get to half cow face. Letting the left leg extend, and I'll reach forward and come up. Let's reach a little to the left and come up, and reach a little to the right and come up. Lift up, uncross back to boat. Other side. Left leg crosses over, right leg extends, half cow face, reach forward, come up, reach to the right, come up, reach to the left, come up, come back to boat. Okay, we're gonna try some boat roll downs. So approximately trying to keep the legs the same. Roll down, keep your head elevated, and then roll back up. Roll down, roll up, roll down. And this is similar to beginning of class work, right? Roll up, roll down, roll up, last time, roll down, pause. Head down, hands on the knees. Let's circle from the hip joint. Both directions. Kind of like you're rowing or doing the breaststroke. Row, row, row your hips gently down the stream. Okay. From here, let's take feet to the mat, and we're going to do some bridge leg work, but with some shifting of things from side to side, because we've done that in several different places, just to see how it feels to explore. So you can do whatever you want with your arms. I'm just going to kind of let mine be wherever. We'll lift the hips up into a bridge, and then let's shift the hips to the right and set them down. Lift them up and shift them past center to the left and set them down. So a shifting, lifting bridge from side to side. Okay, next time we're lifting, let's stay in the middle with our hips and take the feet wider apart. So we're in a wide-footed bridge. So keeping the hips up best we can. Let's do a windshield wiper to the right. Notice what you feel. Keep the right facing position, let your hips come down. Keep things to the right as you lift back up, and then we'll come back to center and windshield wiper to the left, lower down. Stay to the left, lift up, back to center. Let's do one more each side. Shift and lower, lift, back to center, to the left, lower, lift, back to center, lower down. Take a moment. Awesome. Bring the feet together, soles of the feet touching, knees wide, recline, down angle. That's our retreat after our work to kind of close things out. Arms can be wherever you like. Maybe try a few different places and just kind of see how that affects things. Let your breath slow down. And you can choose to stay here for Shavasana, or if you want to be traditional, take your legs down, arms down, scan things and just make sure you feel comfortable. You can close your eyes, relax your jaw, the muscles in your face, and let everything go, even your breath. Just let it be natural, let it be effortless, and let yourself rest. Start to deepen the breath and wiggle fingers and toes. Circle wrists and ankles in both directions. And let's reach overhead. Nice long stretch, fingertips through the toes. Give the knees a hug and rock from side to side. Rolling over to one side, resting there. And gently press up to a comfortable seated position. Take a moment, notice how things are feeling after your practice. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Have a great day.